This is the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing? I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Ever picked a forbidden fruit? I know I have. And like anything else in life, it's not how you fall, it's how you get up. Face what you've done and keep moving. No one illustrates that better than our first author, who finds herself working for a company that allows her to share her experiences and help others.
Okay. Hi, Alice. This is Sarah Louise. I live on the Monterey Peninsula in California. I work for a nonprofit organization called Interim, and they actually help the underprivileged, they help the homeless, they help people with mental illnesses, and they teach them about mental wellness. You know, in our society, we talk a lot about mental illness rather than mental wellness, and our company is all about wellness. And this company actually saved me. I had tried to commit suicide. I had flatlined. I was in a mental ward at a local hospital. They found me. They got me housing. I finally decided to work with doctors. They got me doctors. I got on medication. I have therapists. I have counselors. And in 4.5 years, I've been drug-free, alcohol-free, and I have now taken control over my life. And I lecture about diversity, about being transgender, about addiction, about codependency, boundaries, just basically becoming a healthy, dynamic human being that is focused and centered and can live out their destiny. I like to say the difference between a lump of coal and a diamond is the diamond believed the diamond could handle the pressure, and that's what we all are. Sometimes people let the pressure take the best of them and bring them to dark places.
You look at our homeless population in America, nobody can figure this out. How do we help these people? How do we inspire these people to want to help themselves?
Well, this company that I work for has been around since the 70s, and it started out kind of as a hippie organization, seeing a need and trying to find solutions, and they still are in business, bigger, stronger, more powerful. They have sobriety homes, counselors and doctors for everybody. Everybody gets medicated. People really do get off the streets, and they do get their lives together. They become productive people in society again. They find their self-worth. Like anything successful, it's an art, and it takes practice. And why I call the book The Forbidden Fruit is because we're all looking for knowledge to help us through this maze that's called life. And I try to show people from my journey so that they don't have to go down those roads like I did. It's my journey from being transgender, about drugs and alcohol. It's my journey about 2 dysfunctional marriages. It's about being molested by my father, getting through all of that darkness. And so I had to learn how to start making better building blocks. So my history made me something substantial in my life. But thank God I got off of these rest areas and I got back onto the main road. And now it's like fresh air. Now I'm here to stay. Nothing is going to lure me back into stupidity. I know I can see the forbidden fruits, see those temptations. And the best knowledge comes from learn because you've earned them. And it's not just something you'll pick from a tree and bite into it and all your problems will be solved. It's like that's the illusion of a drug. It doesn't happen that way.
No, it sure doesn't. Thanks so much, Sarah. Finding purpose through cancer. That's exactly what happened to Kathy Williams, who was in the midst of journaling about her life when she got the news. But she fought the battle and won, and now helps others do the same and tells us how in her book, My Walk of Faith, His Grace.
2001, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I was shocked. Because I said, me being a woman of faith, you know, how could this even happen to me? Like, no matter what journey you are, you are who you still human, right? And sat in the computer for a long time until I got down here 3 years ago and was really inspired to like finish it off, write the book. But my faith was really what sustained me. You know, it showed me that during my journey, I found out that I had a purpose. I found my purpose by having cancer. Then I started realizing that going through that, I was speaking in venues, ministering to women, you know, about encouraging them about getting their mammograms and the importance of mammograms. And then I found myself just going out into the community, which I really love doing, and touching people's lives women of color. It was all about women, period. My sister, she was like diagnosed maybe 3 or 4 years before I was. I said, okay, well, she's on the other side of the family, so maybe it won't happen to me. So I figured I would still be exempt, but I was shocked when, it happened to me too.
Does it run in
hmm
your family?
One of my older sisters, she got it. Another one of my sisters, she passed away from cancer. So I guess you can't say it's kind of strong on the women's side of the family.
Now, are you able to continue your ministry and talking to people and, this wonderful path that you were on? Did it get derailed by COVID?
It did get derailed because I was planning on doing a large event down here in Georgia with American Cancer Society, and we decided to put it off until 2021. When I was up in New York, I did an event which I named "We Celebrate You in Pink," which acknowledged those that are going through, those that have fought the good fight of faith, and those that are survivors. That we planned a fashion show, brunch, just celebrating life. Social media is really good because right now, I love making strides against breast cancer. So I'm on social media raising funds for the American Cancer Society for making strides against breast cancer. We have a 35-mile walk that we're doing right now. So it doesn't make a difference how long it takes, but it has to be done all in October. So I'm doing that right now. But I also, you know, just people that know me and my journey know other people that have gone through breast cancer, that they will have them contact me, and they will contact me, and I would encourage them. I would pray with them, and just encourage them, or either just the different connections that I have and speaking into different, throughout the community as well. I'm grateful to God that I'm here and that I can be able to bring hope to those that have no hope, or think that there is no hope, because there is always hope. As long as we're here, there is hope. And long as, we have put hope somewhere along the line. And, with me gone through what I've gone through, my hope and desire is that everyone that goes through an adversity, no matter if it's cancer, no matter what it is, that there is hope and there is faith, and that there is a purpose through everything.
All right, Kathy, thanks. A Black Man Survivor's Guide in the 21st Century is the name of our next book, and in it, the author provides a roadmap for Black men to help them recognize and overcome obstacles, and as he says, rise up to be the best human being possible.
My name is Kenneth Green. I reside in the city of Cincinnati, Ohio. I am the CEO of Diadem Productions. I am a former TV host, business coach, classroom instructor. I was one of the first paid professional mentors in the city of Cincinnati. The inspiration came from my 20-something years involved in the community, founding a church, going into nursing homes, being a chairman and director of many positions and local fellowships that I've been a part of, including youth prison organization, and being conscientious enough to say that the time had come to put down some of the burdens and issues that have vexed me, troubled me. I have 3 sons, and even as I'm speaking, in the last 24 hours, a Black man by the name of Jonathan Price was shot and murdered trying to break up a domestic dispute. So he was not guilty of any crime. He was trying to help. He is in my oldest son's age group. The book is a historical and experiential anecdotal perspective on Black men and what trepidation and things that we have gone through. Also relating to Black women and the majority culture, what we have suffered in regard to negation and discovering and continuing self-determination. The book is a how-to guide. Black men in general, and specifically in America, are survivors, and in the 21st century, strategies are needed to overcome the petulant and devious psychosocial racist hurdles that yet remain, recognizing obstacles and the steps required to circumvent and overcome them. As Black men, I've always thought that we need to begin assuming more responsibility and accountability for the change of stagnation, spiritually and socially and psychologically, that some are still bound by. I have gone into different prisons and taught entrepreneurship and financial life skills. I've appealed to some of the influencers that have the means and the wherewithal to see this as an opportunity to put a book in the hands of those who need it most. And in the book, there are plenty of opportunities for that to become a realization. Some of my proposals include the 6 to 16 immersion, which has to do with Black men, young men being given the opportunity to have the type of curriculum and taught by Black teachers, male and female, in such a critical part of their development. The Antecedent Project, which means walk a mile in my shoes, where a white gentleman might assume or would assume a Black identity with the help of a professional makeup artist for 21 days to see what it's like to walk as a Black man in America. I speak about reparations and what that might look like as a package. And then finally, the United Heritage House, which is my goal to see different chapters around the United States with a goal for racial reconciliation and restoration.
All right, Ken, you got a lot going on there. You go for it. A newspaper publisher for 60 years in Athens, Georgia, Millard P. Grimes, decided it was time to compile hundreds of editorials, stories, columns, and ideas to write The Last New Dealer, a book the author describes as a history lesson disguised as a compelling novel.
It's sort of semi-autobiographical. It's about a former newspaper publisher who sells his papers and takes the money and decides to run for president in the 1992 presidential primaries. And he starts out in New Hampshire, which is the first primary. He's never run for anything, although he's been involved in politics as a editor and publisher. And after all those years of writing editorials, I decided the best way to get your ideas out was as a candidate. At least that's what this candidate for president decides. And about half of it is about the New Hampshire primary of 1992, in which this former publisher runs as a candidate for the Democratic nomination. And he has a driver consultant that he travels around the state with. They travel from one end of New Hampshire to another, and as they travel, he talks about growing up during the 1930s, during the Great Depression and the New Deal FDR years, and how that changed the country and brought it out of the Depression and prepared it really to be a strong economy to fight World War II. So that's what the book's about him running for president and ideas that he proposes as he runs for president.
Any ideas that you could share with me?
In 1992, Soviet Union was breaking up, dissolving, so to speak. So he also proposed that the United States try to improve relations with Russia, and since they were still both the largest nuclear powers in the world, right, and together they could improve the chances for peace throughout the whole world, not just between each other. And then the New Deal during the 1930s. And one reason I wanted to write the book was to remind people of what they still owed the policies of the New Deal and Franklin Roosevelt, which a lot of them had forgotten, and how they helped the country. And not only helped the country in the 1930s, but was still helping the countries in 1992 and are still helping it now through Social Security and minimum wage for unemployment. And to some extent, the GI Bill, which was passed in 1944, was actually part of the New Deal. And the GI Bill, of course, allowed thousands of people to go to college who had never gone to college before. And then they sent their children and their grandchildren to college. That created the boom in colleges and created the boom in sports, football particularly. I want to say one thing. One of the themes of my book is that democracy is the narrow path between the desert of tyranny on one side and the wilderness of anarchy on the other. The United States is one of the only nations that has managed to navigate through that narrow path for so long. So many others, including all the nations, and have either drifted off to one side or the other, mostly to tyranny, because given the choice between tyranny and anarchy, nearly all people will choose tyranny over anarchy because they can't stand disorder. And the United States, except the Civil War, managed to avoid all those problems and stay one nation. The fact that they're the United States has made all the difference. And the theme of my book, as the candidate points out, if we continue to criticize the government, criticize the candidates and the politicians to the point we've been doing, and certainly are doing this year, we're in danger of losing the government. I was real anxious to get the book out before the election, so anything you can do to promote it before the election, appreciate it.
All right, Millard, I think we have accomplished that. Thanks so much. And we're going to take a quick break, but we're coming right back. This is the Page Publishing Book Club.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything: copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
We're back on the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Living in a seedy section of New Orleans after divorcing his wife with all of the colorful characters you can possibly imagine, Paul Kilborn found something he didn't expect. Inspiration for his book. It's entitled Dead Eyes. All right, so we have this guy, Arthur Neely, who winds up brain damaged.
Right.
What happened to this guy?
An axe wound to the left side of his head, which left him brain damaged in a couple of ways. It also activated his pituitary, so he has elevated levels of growth hormone 2, combined with the lack of ability to process information and even a little bit of aphasia, which is the inability to speak and use, that has created a unique individual, a filterless but fearless individual. And some of his malaprops caused by the speech problem are kind of funny, I think.
So he shares a house with a mentally ill, cannibalistic former nun.
Right, that he knew from his previous life in high school, a former girlfriend of his brother's.
And he ends up helping his uncle, the cop, solve a murder?
Well, one of his acquaintances, he was a debt collector for his other uncle, and this is his paternal uncle, Kevin, who's a police captain in New York City on the west side. But the murder is actually committed on the east side, and it's under very ambiguous circumstances. The victim was basically torn limb from limb, and his uncle knows that Arthur has great intuition. See, he's completely right-brained because his left brain has been so decimated, so he intuits very well. And he also has a background in, boxing and wrestling and debt collecting, as I said. But it's his intuition that ultimately drags him to the perpetrator. And that's the majority of the plot. And one of the basic points of the book is that these things, such as demons or monsters, can be explained through natural processes. And that doesn't mean that evil doesn't exist. It merely means that it's traceable. And some of it also is explicable if one really wants to dig hard from Arthur's potential hallucinations and misinterpretations of things. Even though he intuits very well and he can tell when something is up, he doesn't always know exactly what it is that's up. And he finds some characters along the way that really color the book. It's a nice cast of characters to really complement the main story. Sent copies to a couple of people who I think are very capable of networking. I mean, I am not. I'm a hermit, but local bookstores up here, R.J. Julia's very high-profile clients come to their signings, and that's something I've discussed with.
Do you do Zoom?
Do I do which?
No Zooming for you?
No, I can hardly make it 50 yards without sucking wind.
Good one. All right, Paul. Of course, we're talking about Zoom. You know, like, who isn't Zooming, right? I mean, everybody's Zooming. All right, thanks, Paul. Dan Reynolds had 17 careers with 23 companies over 52 years. Security, surveyor, sales, now author of the book, The Poetry of Erotic Love, Addiction, and Death.
I wrote my first poem, which is in the book back in 1962. It's the one called The Scarlet Phantom. And then a year later, I wrote a poem pretty much based on an episode of a TV show called Thriller. Some of the poetry is on my YouTube channel in musical form because, after all, what is a song but a poem put to music? So some of my poetry is on my channel, and when I heard about Page Publishing, I said, well, why don't I try to get the poems published? And that's what I did.
And it's called The Poetry of Erotic Love, Addiction, and Death.
Yes, ma'am.
So you cover a wide range.
Yeah, well, most of my poetry was written back in the 70s, but I've been writing poetry for 58 years. I wrote my last poem, which is in the book also, called Crunchy, or Crunchy or Chunky, something like that. But I wrote that one, and you know, I get inspired, I write. I have 52 poems in the book out of currently 82 poems, which I've written over that period of which I mentioned.
Do you sing your poetry?
Yeah, I sing. I just like to record my stuff. I can read the first poem in the book.
Okay.
I long to gaze into your eyes and to touch your cheeks. Let our fingers entwine and our hungry lips meet. That our souls should burn with flaming desire. To know love's sweet kiss and quench passion's fire.
Have you ever thought about doing cards? That'd be a great card, man.
Yeah, well, that one, there's a gentleman on YouTube called Dave Cullen, and he read that. He called it romantic with a touch of fire.
Yeah, it's very steamy.
Yeah, but that's not my steamiest. There are others that may not be acceptable to read over the air.
On a family radio program.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. All right, Dan, thank you. Outside of Sesame Street's Count Von Count and Count Chocula, how many fun vampires are there? Well, thanks to Elle Dixon, we can add Leon, the little misfit vampire person, to the list.
Leon is a little person. He's not evil or sinister looking. And Leon is a descendant from a long line of vampires. He's so far removed from them that although he can still hypnotize and can transform into a little bat, he has several phobias. And fear is one of them. He has a great fear of heights. He is somewhat nearsighted, allergic to cat hair, and he dreads the idea of being in a enclosed or narrow space, and develops amnesia after a fall as well. And because of his mistaken need for blood, which is only a craving he has, and his phobias, he will experience many unpredictable outcomes. His life is full of unexpected events. That's why I named the book Leon, the Little Misfit Vampire Person.
What kind of misfit events are we talking about?
Well, he seems to be clumsy at times. He runs into unexpected problems from his that would be victims. And he just has so much trouble in his life But eventually, there's a turn that things develop a little better for him, and he will experience a better life than what he had been going through for years.
Are there more adventures with Leon?
There's possibly some, yeah, that I've been thinking of writing again about him, but I'm just in the first stages of that.
Did you make a little Leon so we can see what he looks like?
Oh, well, I have his, on the page of his book, it shows a little Leon, but I don't have a stuffed figure.
You should get a little stuffed Leon made so that when you buy the book, you get like a little vampire.
Oh, that would be nice. I did some of my own marketing, and the people that have read it have said that it was really hilarious and they really enjoyed it. So I'm going to see if I can talk to a manager at one of the local Barnes and Noble and ask them to if they can place one of my books on their shelves so that readers can see them.
I know some people have managed to do book signings with masks.
Yeah, and then this virus has really made it more difficult. I think my book came out in March, and there's been not too much exposure for that.
I know, Luis. This virus just keeps hanging around, messing up our plans, promotions, book signings, but I did mention Zoom again during this show, and I'm going to keep mentioning it because some authors are having some luck with it. I mean, they're calling up friends, asking them to ask their friends to log on to a meeting at a specific time. All you have to do is set it up on your computer, and then you can talk about your book. People can ask questions. You can read parts of your book, especially good for a children's book, Luis. And, you know, if you can't do it yourself, find someone who can help you. They're out there. Come on. You can do it. You can find them. Ask somebody. There are people out there who can set you up with a Zoom meeting and maybe even sit with you for the first one. You may even have a friend who's already doing it. I mean, you got to ask. Anyway, that's it for this edition of the Page Publishing Book Club. Download the podcast at 710WOR.com. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. I'll catch you next time.